What we're going to be looking at today is our own standard called STS2020. This standard was designed by ourselves at Element for burglary resistance. It's broken into 6 levels. Each level has a different time requirement and a different toolkit. At level 1 we have a 1-minute attack, level 2 to a 3-minute attack, ranging then through 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and each time we get a new toolkit with different tools, more on, and we can use the toolkit before it. So today we're going to be looking at level 1 and level 2. And my engineer Josh in the box is going to start with our level 1 attack testing. So if you'd like to start, Josh. So as discussed, level 1 you get basic hand tools. So these are the type of things opportunist burglars are going to have within their pockets. Things that you'll have at home. So pliers, screwdrivers, levers, we've got wedges, different types of wires and tapes to do different things with, and we have a minute attack. So what Josh is looking at doing right now is seeing whether the cable cutters can cut the hinge. We then look at whether we can remove the hinge cap to try to get to the hinge pin, pop the hinge pin out to then lever the door from that edge. STS2020 is one route for secure by design and is also recognised in approved documents of building regulations, and is a way of showing compliance for that as well. Today's doors have been provided by Latham steel door sets and are really good. As you can see, we've got multiple locking points, multiple hinges, different locking devices fitted into it to try and stop my engineer from getting through. The STS2020 actual standard is designed for the engineer to get from point A to point B. We have a body-sized gap gauge to replicate a person, but the ethos of the test is go from point A to point B. So what Josh is looking at doing now is using the lever to try and get in there, again to lever from the hinge side to lever the door open. Now, as you can see, he's struggling to get the actual tool in. When we look at security products, it all comes down to tolerances. So if the tolerance is spot on and the tool can't get in, we physically can't lever the door out. So when we look at security products, tolerances are everything. We can't lever where we can't get the actual tool in. Okay, so when we do the testing, we look at it from a systematic process. And we don't limit the engineer. So he works down the hinge side, up the lock side, onto any hardware that's there, and then it goes into the leaf and the door handle and things like the security functions, whether it's got a security escutcheon, a cylinder specific device, or a 3-star cylinder. The STS2020 test is broken into pre-testing and a main test, so the engineer can explore as many 1-minute attacks as he can think of and explore any vulnerabilities he wants to try and work out the best method of entry for that door set. If we gain entry, we then put a second door set in to then prove the method of entry against any accumulative damage that was formed from previous attack testing. If we don't gain access, then we get the level that we've got. The test is progressive, so if you go for a level 3, you test at level 1, level 2 to level 3. If you then failed at a level 4, you get a level 3, failed at a level 3, a level 2. So what Josh is now looking at doing is similar to Pass 24 on cylinder snapping. We've moved on to the handle. What he'll try to do is remove the handle with the mole grips to gain access to that cylinder, and then try and snap the cylinder or defeat the escutcheon that's behind it for a security point of view. Again, he has a 1-minute attack time at level 1 using these basic tools, which can be quite effective, as you can see, trying to move and manipulate all the trim out the way to get access to where he needs to be. Each attack time has a rest period to give the engineer time to look and assess what he's doing. So when we get a 1 minute attack, we then have a 5 minute rest period, 3 minute attack, 7 minute rest period. So the engineer can down tools, swap tools and look at what's going on within the lock case itself to work out the best method of entry. Okay, what we'll look at doing now is attacking the leaf itself. So at level 1 we get a knife, and similar to TSE2020, we'll try and chop through the centre of the core. On this particular one it's quite a thick steel door, but we always check all vulnerabilities to make sure all tools isn't something that we can break through with. Okay Josh, if we look at moving on to a level 2. So once we've gone through the level 1 and we found that there's no vulnerabilities, we then get the level 2 kit in combination with the level 1 toolkit, and then we'll start the process again, working down the hinge side using the additional tools to go down this hinge side, the lock side, the leaf, hardware, and looking at all possibilities. The game changer from level 1 to 2 is we now get a hammer. So using the wedges, we can then start to force it into the gaps that are there. There's no limit on how many tools Josh can use at one time, just physically how many tools he can handle at one time. Again, what we're looking at here is exploring the gaps to put the wedge in, move past, lever that door out, and as you can see the tolerances of the security door is where we're fighting. So if we can't physically get the tools in, it's all about tolerances that make a difference. If we can get the wedge in, the wedges are actually used in naval ships for missile attacks, where they'll go down with wood wedges, and if they're hit by different missiles, they'll put the wedges in to stop the sea coming in with all that pressure. So you can imagine if the sea coming into a ship, what pressure we can apply with those wedges into a door set, taking different parts of engineering that are commonly known and applying it to different burglar attacks to use pressure and easy tools that are available to get from point A to point B. So as Josh has moved from the hinge side, he's now going to replicate what he's trying to do. Move to the locking point. On this particular type of door, we have chute bolts at the top, at the bottom. We then have multiple locking points at the top of the door, the bottom of the door, and in the centre of the door, which adds a lot of locking points that Josh needs to defeat using these attacks. So once we get into the door and start trying to lever it open, we're then looking at different attack methods to try and lever that door or manipulate the lock that's there. So for door sets that are fitted with glass in STS2020, we are allowed to break it. So unlike TSE2020, we can go directly for the glass and we can put that hammer through it. So when we start looking at level 2s upwards and level 1s, we are allowed to try and lever it, break it, hammer it out. So then you specify higher grades of glazing, different types of polycarbonates, retention systems, all designed to stop my engineer getting from the outside to the inside. Got jobs going. Again, as you've seen, Josh is working up, so to a different locking point. And what we're looking at doing now is trying to hammer and move the deadbolts across back into the door to physically push that in. But as described, we've got different, I believe there's 3 deadlocks at the centre, 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom, different chute bolts top and bottom, as well as big security hinges, different dog bolts. So a lot of security on this door set to contend with. Okay, well done Josh. What we'll look at doing now is moving onto the, you've got bolt cutters, back onto the hinge. So as we get higher in the grades, we get bigger equipment. So the way I describe this test is you go to B&Q, you buy some tools, you don't get in, you go back to B&Q, buy bigger tools, and keep going up. There's 6 grades at the moment to STS2020, ranging from hand tools all the way up to battery operated equipment, grinders, circular saws, 1.5 metre pinch bars, and as described, you can use as many tools as you want at one point. So we have extending tubes, so you can extend the crowbars out to 2 metres and apply different leverages at the top grades. So one of the common method attacks using bolt cutters, as much as Josh is trying to cut the hinge, is trying to twist the hinge caps off if they're fitted to get to the hinge pin. So with a twisting action and a clamping method, you can remove the hinge cap, knock it out with a pinch bar, and then lever the door from the hinge side, removing all the hinges. At the level 2, you also get different types of saws. And again, the engineer will explore whether the saws that we've got in the toolkit can cut through. As small as it looks, sometimes small tools are quite effective, and it's always worth exploring whether we can get in with them. Or at least start a small gap to put a screwdriver and hammer and then start bending everything out the way. Level 2, we have 3 minutes. So once we've done the hinge side, the lock side, we'll move back to the hardware, and what we'll look at is whether we physically can get the handle off, go to the security functions and try and remove the escutcheons, cylinder specific devices, and then attack the cylinder itself. So we have a 3-star cylinders fitted to these door sets, so even if we get through, the cylinder will snap, have anti-snap features to then lock down and stop the engineer from breaking in if we can defeat through different escutcheons and handles at this grade. As you can see, 3 minutes is actually a lot longer process in your head than it feels like. So 3 minutes is where we start to think from an opportunist point of view. I'm looking over my shoulder, who's about, do I need to get out there? Moving up to levels 3, 4 onwards, we're then moving into career criminals, where they have the risk for reward, so they know what they're looking for, so they go tooled up and they go for a 10-minute attack, knowing that I'm going to break into this to get diamonds, cash, whatever it is. They accept the risk for the time limit. So what he's looking at doing at the minute is trying to get in. A lot when you get into this type of testing is making the gap big enough for the tool to explore what you wanted to do at the beginning. So where he goes in down the side, he's trying to either move the metal out the way to get access to the internal lock, or physically lever on the cylinder to break it and get to the fixings. As well as physical attacks, we do get drills at a 3.6 volt, so a small hand drill that can easily be hidden in your pocket to try and drill through different cylinders and manipulate. With this particular type of discussion we've got on, it's got different anti-drill protection on it to stop that. Whereas Josh is trying to go from the side to get access into it to remove the cylinder. As you progress into the higher levels of STS2020, your drills range into 12 volt, 18 volt, 24 volt, and then plug in the wall and to big boy tools. Okay, Josh. So what we'll look at is the last attack on the hammering of the leaf. We've got no competition, but Eddie Hall fingered in with a sledgehammer, Josh. And what he'll go for is the centre of the door, and we're going to try and hammer the door. And what he's trying to do is fatigue the metal. He'll then use the impact screwdriver to then try to indent the door set, to then try to peel it away to get to the internal, to then start making a physical hole through the door to gain access to the inside, either to get his hand in to do any unlock thumb turns, or to physically tin open the door to try and make a body-sized hole. As we progress through the grades of STS2020, the hammer goes from a standard floor hammer to a 1.5 kilo hammer, to a lump hammer, to a sledgehammer, to a hooligan bar, to a bigger hooligan bar. So the higher grades of the STS2020 standard is where we start getting different battering rams, different levers, and progressing. And all Josh is doing at the minute is trying to fatigue that metal, wear it thin, and then try to impact to peel the leaf away. As you can see, it's a very thick steel and he's doing its job very well. Okay, Josh, there we go. So, 3-minute attack trying to hammer it away and break through it. Well done, Josh. A round of applause for my engineer. Gets very hot in the box. So that is some of the attacks that we start to look at from an STS2020 BR2 level, trying to explore different vulnerabilities and breaking in. If anybody has any questions on STS2020 or testing, please feel free to come and speak to me afterwards. Me and my technical team will be able to explain or talk to you about it. Again, today's doors were provided by Latham's security door sets. So any questions, please feel free and we'll answer them afterwards. Thank you.